It was Dr. Joseph Conrad who said, "You cannot ignore the importance of good digestion. The joy of life depends on a sound stomach." Interesting statement that, and I can attest to it myself, having had some digestive problems. I know you've heard my story many times before. I've suffered from bipolar disorder, allergies, hay fever, I talk about in the book. But something I also had problems with was a spastic colon. Well, was termed a spastic colon by the medical profession at the time. And I kind of wondered what a spastic colon was. They couldn't kind of tell me. They just said it was prone to gas and flatulence. But why call it spastic? Did that mean that it was like, had an arm or a leg that didn't work properly and dribbled or drooled? It's not a term that's used much these days. But really what it meant was that I would get this buildup of gas in my digestive tract, and it would cause incredible distension in my abdomen and incredible pain. It would feel as if somebody had stuck a knife into my stomach and was twisting it or wringing my intestines. And so I kind of just lived with it, because they said there's nothing much you can do with it. Don't eat things with skins on it. Today they'd probably refer to diverticulitis or diverticulosis. I couldn't eat things with seeds or nuts or whole grains, and these were things that I was naturally attracted to anyway. It didn't make any sense to me. My husband Mark suffered from indigestion and lived on antacid medication. He was permanently tired, and I didn't realize the tiredness, neither did he, was linked to his digestive tract. And it was only when we both started combining our food properly, because of my allergies and his indigestion, that my spastic colon also went. So what does combining your food properly mean? Well, I'll explain that in a little while. But I have over the years, and I say over the years, it's been 23 years that we've been not eating proteins and starches at the same meal. And I'll go through what proteins and starches are in a little while. And since we've not been mixing proteins and starches, we've not had any indigestion, no bloating, no flatulence, no spastic colon or diverticulitis or irritable bowel syndrome. Mark's never had to take another antacid medication unless he's eaten proteins and starches at the same meal. So we've seen an incredible turnaround in our digestive tracts. But what's been really, really encouraging is that over the years, since my first book, The Natural Way, came out in 1991, since then we've probably received thousands of letters and emails from people whose, more than anything else, people have said their digestion has improved dramatically, and as a result their energy has improved astoundingly. And so I can honestly say that from a digestive point of view, the Natural Way 5 steps, particularly step number 5, which is to make sure that you keep your meals simple, is probably the most important thing when it comes to digestion. What I want to look at is just why food combining is so important as when it comes to the digestive tract and in the repair of the digestive tract. And very often people have said to me, "Oh, my dietitian or my doctor says food combining is a lot of rubbish, or it's the apartheid diet and it's not physiological and it's absolute nonsense." So I'm going to be reading to you from Guyton's Medical Physiology. I've had this particular edition for many years. You can get updated versions of them, and I've checked in some of the updated versions. It's very much the same. There's not much different when it comes to the digestive tract. And if you read in this particular edition, which is 7th edition, in the chapter on the digestive tract, this is probably one of the most boring when it comes to pictures. There are not many pictures, they're just black and white pencil kind of drawings. And there's some great drawings in different digestive tracts. Like this one over here, overview of the digestive tract, which has got, everything to do with the digestive system. Basically, this is what it says. Firstly, what food combining is not eating potatoes and starches, potatoes and bread and pasta and sweet potatoes and corn, and I've actually broken it down really nicely here in the food combining chart. I've got starches over here: barley, bread, buckwheat cereals, Jerusalem artichokes, maize, millet, which is corn or mealies, oats, pasta, potatoes, rice cakes, rice, sweet potatoes, semolina, wheat. This is your starch group, okay? These are your concentrated starches. Proteins are your concentrated proteins: eggs, dairy products, fish, meat, milk, nuts, poultry, seeds, unprocessed cheeses. To a certain extent, the stronger a cheese is, the more high in protein it is, and yogurt tend to be classed as more of a protein food. And it's ideal not to be eating proteins and starches at the same meal. So that would be what we call a bad combination. However, you could eat any of the neutral vegetables, which is artichokes, asparagus, avocados, beetroot, broccoli. And these charts, without the pretty pictures, of course, is the back of all of my books. So you can have a look at it. You could eat neutral vegetables with starch or neutral vegetables with protein. And when you do that, you find that your food stops fermenting. Now, the reason that we find this not fermenting is, and I'm going to read from Guyton's physiology textbook here, is that on page 788, it says the digestion of carbohydrates in the stomach. Even though food does not remain in the mouth long enough for ptyalin, that's a salivary amylase or starch digesting enzyme, to complete the breakdown of starches into maltose, the action of ptyalin, that's this enzyme you get when you chew food, you produce the ptyalin, and then it starts the process of breaking down starches. And the reason for that is starches come in these long chains of glucose molecules, and the process of digestion breaks that down into individual molecules of starch digestion. It's kind of a bit like something like Lego. Let me get some Lego over here. We got some Lego. Here we go. There we go. You can imagine your starches coming in these chains, and digestion, what it does is it breaks it down into individual molecules of glucose, all right? So what happens? It's not in your mouth long enough to break down all the pieces. You have to have this for some time. You'd have to have it in your mouth for probably close to an hour, maybe even more, to get this process to all these pieces to break apart. So what happens in the mouth is that it may just break apart like that. So you're still getting two molecules stuck together. So you need to complete this process of breaking down. And that's what takes place in the stomach. Now, it says it can continue, ptyalin, the enzyme ptyalin, can continue acting. The action of ptyalin can continue for as long as an hour after the food has entered the stomach. That is, until the contents of the stomach are mixed with the stomach secretions. Then the activity of the salivary amylase, that's the ptyalin, is blocked by the acid of the gastric secretions, for it's essentially non-active as an enzyme once the pH of the medium falls below approximately 4. Now I'm going to draw a nice picture for you to help you understand it in plain English. If you turn over the page to page 790, the digestion of proteins in the stomach, it says pepsin, the important peptic enzyme of the stomach, is most active at a pH of 2 to 3 and completely inactive at a pH of approximately above 5. Going back to the starches, it says the activity of the salivary amylase is blocked by the acid of the gastric secretions. It is essentially non-active as an enzyme once the pH of the medium falls below approximately 4. Now, let's go back to basic chemistry, basic biology. Here, when we were at school, this is what we call the pH scale. pH scale. It measures from 0, which is extremely acidic, to 7, which is neutral. So that's neutral, that side's acid, and this side is alkaline. and that's 14 there. We find that what the textbooks tell us is that protein digestion takes place ideally at a pH of 2 to 3. So we get protein digestion. That means the secretions in the digestive tract break down protein most efficiently at this level over here, okay? When the pH in the stomach goes over 5, proteins cannot digest anymore, okay? So at this point, there's no more digestion of proteins, and that would be 5, okay? What we know about starches is that they start digesting in the stomach, and if we go back to Guyton's medical physiology, in the previous chapter to the one that I'm reading from, it actually tells you that starches digest best at a pH of 6 to 7.5 or 7.8. So starches ideally digest kind of here. Okay. So this is ideal for protein digestion, and this is ideal for starch digestion. Now, you don't need a degree in chemistry to understand the basics of what I'm saying here. It's chemically impossible to have a pH of 6 to 7.8 in the same stomach as the same time of a pH of 2 to 3. You just cannot do it. So what happens when you're eating your chicken and your potatoes at the same meal is that starch digestion is slowed down and stopped pretty dramatically. In fact, what we know is that starches cannot digest below a pH of 4. And so your stomach secretes, let me use a different color pen. Your stomach secretes hydrochloric acid. And that has a pH of 0.8. So okay, that's like right over here. Okay. So when we secrete this, it has this dramatic effect on the stomach, and it brings the pH down to this level here. Starch digestion completely stops at that level. What happens when you have partially digested starches in a warm, moist environment? Very easy. It starts to ferment. Okay. Ferment. And what are the byproducts of fermentation? Well, that's pretty easy. That is gas, and you also get alcohol, acetic acid, and ammonia. Ammonia is a powerful carcinogenic substance which can promote cancer of the digestive tract, and we know that cancer of the digestive tract is the most common form of cancer today. We are producing a powerful carcinogenic substance every time we eat proteins and starches together. I'm not surprised that we have, over and above the processed and refined and fried foods, we're producing this powerful carcinogenic substance every time we're eating bread with cheese or bread with meat, for example, like a hamburger or a hot dog, or meat on a slice of bread. Every time we have potatoes and chicken or fish and chips, we're producing this carcinogenic substance. We may be eating a baked potato and boiled chicken because we're on a special diet and there's no actual fat in it, but we're producing this powerful carcinogenic substance. Acetic acid is really just very strong vinegar, and it's extremely acidic in the body, robs the body of calcium, as is alcohol, also robs the body of calcium. These two would promote osteoporosis, for example. The gas, if you're a dog, a man, or a child, you tend to get rid of that gas really comfortably and very quickly, and often very audibly. But very often, women have problems with gas. And that's because we've just simply got less space in our abdominal cavity, because we've got a uterus. Men don't have the uterus, they have more space for their if you take a look at this, this is basically a man's digestive tract, and he's got lots more space for his intestines here, Whereas a woman, the uterus has to fit in there as well. So everything's squashed in tighter. It's a little bit more difficult for gas to get around the corner. And very often what is it builds up round a corner there. Maybe you've got a bit of undigested food and you end up with this incredible pain and distension. And that can encourage things like... That can encourage digestive problems such as diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, bloating, flatulence, spastic colon. The alcohol, acetic acid, for example, will contribute to digestive problems such as heartburn or indigestion. And in fact, what happens is, when this kind of fermentation is taking place, the stomach tries to do something about it. It's like, what can I do to fix this? So it tends to secrete extra hydrochloric acid, which brings the pH even further down to try and at least try and break down the proteins. The starches ferment even more, and so you get this terrible acidic sensation because you're producing too much hydrochloric acid to try and correct the mess. The proteins can start to putrefy, and you've got this mess in there, but you've got this incredible high level of acidity because you keep trying to produce more hydrochloric acid to try and fix the problem. And then you end up with this reflux problem because this acidic food is just not able to actually pass out of your stomach efficiently because it's not reached the place where it should because it's not digesting your food properly. And so it pushes up into the esophagus, and which may or may not flap open depending on how weak or how strong that are, and that depends on your genetic makeup. And then you end up living on antacid medication. They're wanting to do operations to repair the little flap into your esophagus, and I'll tell you right now that that's not actually going to help you. I have seen people with reflux, indigestion, heartburn, just first meal where you don't mix proteins and starches, it's gone, completely gone. You don't have that problem anymore. And it's really not that complicated. For example, you would have salads, you would have potatoes in the form of a baked potato, you could have potato rushti, which we've made before on one of the previous DVDs, a potato casserole. You could have a rice dish with curried vegetables, but you wouldn't have curried meat on the rice. You could have the curried meat inside a baked butternut, but you wouldn't have curried meat on the rice. So it's not that complicated. You start with your raw vegetables, which would be carrot sticks or a salad or some cucumber, and then you'd follow with starch and vegetables or protein and vegetables. All my recipe books are all correctly food combined recipes. They're really easy to make. It's not complicated at all. And when we started doing it, it totally turned around our lives. It turned around our lives in a way that my allergies completely cleared up in 4 days. All the allergic dermatitis on my hands cleared up. My allergic rhinitis, the runny nose, the hay fever, all of that just disappeared overnight. And I ended up, we've had absolutely no ill health for close on 23 years now. So this food combining thing has really, really worked for us. And I recommend that as a first resort, rather than taking medication or having surgery, do the food combining thing. Just commit to it for 2 to 3 weeks. That's all you do. Just say, I'm not going to mix proteins and starches for a 2 to 3 week period. I recommend that you read the chapter on digestion in Perfect Weight. The Natural Way has a very comprehensive chapter on digestion. If you're living in the United States or overseas, or you've been online and ordered Perfect Health, which should be available soon in most countries, this book was is the updated version of The Natural Way, and it has a very comprehensive section on digestion as well. So I would start with that. If you have any ongoing problems with digestion, for example, you still find that you've got gas and bloating and flatulence, you may find in changing to the natural way you become constipated, for example. And that could simply be because, you can take a look here. This is basically the intestines, and this is what the wall of your intestines look. These are these finger-like protrusions that line. Basically, if I had to draw it really quickly, what this does is increase the surface area. This increases the surface area of your digestive tract so that you can absorb food more efficiently. But you can see there's these little pockets that form over here. So if I was to draw this simply, if you had to take a cross-section of your small intestine and you draw these villi, basically. And then on each of them you've got these tiny little hairs. Now, to speed the process up, I'm simply going to do this. This obviously would increase the surface area of your small intestines. And what happens is, over the years of eating a highly processed diet, food that has not got a lot of fiber in it, like bits of animal protein, could kind of just get left behind in here. Some old dried up mucus, because your digestive tract's been battling, could just get stuck in these little crevices here. So when you start following the natural way, you've got all these bits and pieces of rubbish, basically. Old fecal matter, undigested food, not passing out properly. And so you start eating a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables. It starts to clean this out. And that can form a plug. And when that plug kind of gets down to what's the cecum, which is the last sort of, it's like a pocket just before your food goes into the anus and to excrete it, it can kind of sit there, and because it doesn't have any fiber in it, or enough fiber, it can basically clog up, and because your digestive tract's not as efficient as it should be, because from years and years of not eating properly, it can make you constipated. So one of the things that I like to do, and I recommend people doing on the 100 Days to Health program, is to take a product that it's called Herbal Fiber Blend, and this is it over here. And this is made up of a whole bunch of herbs and plants, things like psyllium husk, black walnut hulls, hibiscus flowers, alfalfa leaves and stem, licorice root, shave grass, cascara sacrata bark, rose hips, oat straw, pumpkin seeds, Irish moss, yucca stalk and trunk, marshmallow root, passion flower, capsicum, mullein leaves, a slippery elm, violet leaves, and witch hazel leaves, okay? And what you do is you take this and you put it into a glass of water. You basically would take 1 to 2 teaspoons of this heaped. If you're not sure of the exact amount, you can actually get it in a sachet like this. And you can take it on a daily basis in a little packet like that. And what you do is you put that into a glass of water. It's quite strong tasting, so you can take this in tablet form. And you stir that up. The idea is to drink it as quickly as you possibly can, because this is very, very high in water-soluble fiber. And water-soluble fiber forms a gel. And what happens is that gel, you'll see as it forms in this glass, enables the herbal fiber blend really to help in pulling this muck away from the colon. Now all you've got to do to make sure, the herbal fiber blend will speed this up. Fruit will get the process going, herbal fiber blend will speed it up. You need to make sure you're having enough water. If you started the natural way and you've had the fruit and it's made you constipated, then you need to just increase your amount of water. But the herbal fiber blend will help to unplug it, because what it does is it's not a laxative. It merely forms the stools if they're too hard, if they're too soft. So if you've got diarrhea, it'll form the stools, which is great if you've got food poisoning or you're suffering from diarrhea from nerves or anything like that. It helps, the water-soluble fiber helps to form the stools, but it also helps to soften the stools if they're too hard. And then you need quite a bit of water with that to help. So when you drink the herbal fiber blend, I recommend, you can see this is forming a gel really, really quickly here. Look at this. That's why I say you've got to drink it pretty quickly, because look at that. Goodness me. And I normally take 1 teaspoon. This is quite a bit that I've put in here, because I wanted just to show very quickly the effect that the water-soluble fiber has. It's not quite a gel yet, but you'll see it forms a lovely film. It's like jello. And it helps to clean out all this muck. Now, when I first started taking the herbal fiber blend, the first time I took a teaspoon. And the very first day, it felt as if I was getting rid of 10 kilograms or 20 pounds of old fecal matter. I didn't have diarrhea, I just went to the bathroom very frequently and was getting rid of large quantities of fecal matter, which kind of made me panic. I've taken a teaspoon of this stuff and it's got rid of all this. How long has it been hanging around there? Because previous to that, I'd been following the natural way principles for 10 or 12 years, been eating all this fruit and vegetables. I thought it would have cleaned out all of that muck already. So for me, it surprised me. Imagine if you're just a normal person following a normal diet and haven't been eating fruit and vegetables for 10 years. Imagine how much you've got to get rid of. So I recommend that each person basically finishes a jar. If that's too much, at least finish a packet of this. It should take you a month to 3 months. On the 100 days, I recommend that you use the Herbal Fiber Blend the entire time you're on the 100 days to clean out every possible little pocket or area. This is a fantastic product for things like diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome. It was designed and formulated by a nurse whose husband died of colon cancer, and it's designed to get rid of all that old fecal matter, the old bits of leftover animal flesh, because animal flesh doesn't contain any fiber in it at all. So it really cannot move through the digestive tract at all. And so you need the Herbal Fiber Blend to help you clean out your colon. It's not a bad idea to do that at least once a year. If you eat animal protein on a regular basis, I recommend that you take Herbal Fiber Blend every day, because animal protein, what it does is it takes like 72 hours, if you're lucky, longer if you're not, to get out of the digestive tract. And food should move through from the digestive tract from your mouth to your anus within a 24-hour period. And animal protein slows that down. Herbal Fiber Blend will get your bowels clearing out every 24 hours. You should be going at least 1 to 3 times a day. I'm always asked when I'm talking about the digestive tract, well, how big should your stools be? Take your forefinger, take a good look at it. That's how thick they should be. All you need to know is that when you go for a rectal examination, and men do this when they go for prostate examination, for example, that it's very uncomfortable to have somebody put their finger in that area, and it feels huge. And that's a forefinger. So you can imagine what it's like when people are passing stools that are huge and thick and dry. That's constipated. Even if you're going to the bathroom every single day, if your stools are thicker than your forefinger, you're constipated. Which means that your stools are sitting in the cecum, which is that pocket before it actually, the end of the large intestine, before it actually goes out of the body. And it's getting drier and drier, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you're passing this thick stool, which can cause tearing, which can cause bleeding, and it can cause damage to the anus, and you end up with what's called colorectal cancer. That is cancer of the colon and the rectum, because it's continually stretching and being damaged, and the cells are being damaged, and damaged cells continually being damaged. They reproduce damaged cells, and when you reproduce damaged cells, that's basically what cancer is. So Herbal Fiber Blend will also help get rid of some of the parasites in your body. Now, parasites can cause some serious problems to the digestive tract, okay? And everybody has some form of parasite in them at some point. If you have children in your house, if you've kissed a toddler, if you have dogs, cats, fish, birds, mice, rats, hopefully not, any animals in your house, you definitely have parasites of some description. If you've ever eaten an apple you haven't washed, if you've eaten anything, vegetables, you may have eaten in a restaurant that may not have been washed the food very efficiently. And so it's important to make sure you're getting rid of parasites regularly. As I said, if you're eating animal protein, I would take Herbal Fiber Blend on a regular basis to make sure that your bowels are emptying every 24 hours, otherwise they can't do it. And I would usually take this directly after I've had an animal protein meal. So if you've had a meal with chicken or fish or meat, and at least an hour later, an hour or two later, I would take the Herbal Fiber Blend. You can also take this just as you go to bed at night. Drink an extra glass of water. Have it in a glass of water with an extra glass of water, okay? 1 heaped teaspoon in a glass of water. Otherwise, take the capsules. Herbal Fiber Blend will get rid of some parasites, but not all parasites. And now I have an entire DVD on parasites which you can watch. But just to recap, some of the problems that parasites can cause, and I'm just dealing with the digestive tract here, so I'm just going to talk about that. This is from page 107 in my book, Perfect Weight. Diarrhea is common when there's parasites, bloating and gas, and that's even after you've changed your diet to combining properly. Hunger pains, appetite that is too healthy or no appetite at all, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, nausea, food sensitivity, sugar craving, foul smelling stools. You know, it's like embarrassing. Sometimes people go to the bathroom in a public place, you may walk in and just about want to pass out. It's even worse when they come to your home and go to the bathroom. But that's very common when there is parasites, really bad smelling stools. Heartburn, let's see what else, rectal itching, teeth grinding, this is all part of the digestive tract. There's lots of other problems with parasites, things like muscle pain. I'm not going to go into them, but particularly dealing with the digestive tract, bad breath, anything to do with the digestive tract that has not got sorted out with combining your food properly, I would very definitely get rid of the parasites. Herbal fiber blend will get rid of maybe half of the parasites, but if you want to get rid of all of them, I recommend that you take Para 90, and this is coming in with the big guns. I first recommend you do the herbal fiber blend to get rid of some of the parasites and then come in, because this can have some pretty strong side effects. This will kill every single known of the 400 parasites and get them out, okay? And I do recommend that you take Flora food with it so that it helps to correct the bacteria. It's got garlic in it, and garlic, onion, anything from the garlic and onion family can upset your intestinal bacteria and create a lot of gas problems. You'll think you have a yeast growth. People will tell you have yeast or candida. Very often that's because you've upset your friendly bacteria and now you need to correct it. Flora food contains your friendly bacteria, and in fact what is in here is a blend of 1 billion CPUs of lactoacidophilus, B. bifidum, B. longum, cellulose potato starch, basically that's what it is. You've basically got your acidophilus and your bifidum. You've got them in an environment in which they can feed potato starch is there to help them multiply very efficiently. I found Flora food works incredibly well if you've got any gas problems. When I take the Para 90, I take the two together, otherwise the garlic gives me a bit of gas. And I would continue to take the Flora food regularly for about 2 to 4 weeks after I've stopped the Para 90. Para 90 is taken for a month, 3 times a day for a month. Children can take it. My oldest daughter Melissa has given it to her children from the age of 1 if they're prepared to take a capsule. It's in a capsule. So for any child that can take a capsule, you'll start with 1, and at about the age of 4 or 5 you could have 2 a day. From 6, 7, 8 onwards you can give them 1 3 times a day. And you know, you can go and have a look to see if there are parasites coming out. A lot of people have reported back to me. Frankly, I don't want to know, so I don't look. But you feel a dramatic improvement in things like other areas, eyesight and stuff like that. Right, so gas, flatulence, bloating, we've dealt with that in a lot of problems. Any digestive problem, first food combining, second herbal fiber blend, and third the Para 90 and the Flora food. If you still have problems digesting your food, very often people have done a lot of damage to the digestive tract. They may have had pancreatitis, for example, and then they're needing digestive enzymes because they're not secreting enough digestive enzymes. They may have had surgery to their stomach or the esophagus or any part of the small intestine, and they've had parts removed, and that would damage your ability to produce certain digestive enzymes. And then you might need to take digestive enzymes. AIM has a fantastic product called Prepzymes, which has got all the digestive enzymes in them that you need, and they're very efficient. I know my mother had pancreatitis, and she says it's the most efficient form of digestive enzymes is to take the Prepzymes. You must understand, I think just in summing up, probably the most important thing you can understand is that your digestive tract is controlled by your hormonal system. And you tend to not think that hormones have anything to do with digestion, but they do. And that is one of the reasons why exercising before a meal, and this is Dr. Andre Kruger many years ago from Hochland told me, it's very important that we try to exercise for 20 minutes just before a meal. And the reason for that is exercise regulates at least 18 different hormones, and many of those hormones will have a profound effect on the digestive tract. So exercise helps to correct a lot of digestive problems. If you have problems digesting food and you're combining your food properly, exercise will help you to get it right. If that's still a problem, take the digestive enzymes, the Prepzymes. Exercise helps to correct a lot of digestive problems because it regulates hormones, and the hormonal system controls your digestive tract. So if you have digestive problems, very often it can point to a hormonal system that is simply out of balance. And then I recommend that you read this book, Perfect Weight, because I deal in detail with a lot of the hormonal issues. If you do my natural health and nutrition course, the whole course ends up being focused on the hormonal system because it's probably the most important system in the body. And I have done a very comprehensive DVD on the hormonal system. I think for now, that is kind of given you quite a lot on how to help you with your digestive tract. If you're still having problems with your digestion after that, I highly recommend that you go and see one of our natural health consultants. If you're unable to see them personally, you can email them, you can phone them, and you can get hold of them on our website. And they will work through a program with you and help you to have probably the most healthy and efficient digestive tract you've ever had in your lifetime.